This is the show where we make all things like new again, restoring the past with your host, Professor Shadid.
That's right. I'm Professor Shadid, and you're watching Restoring the Past. Now, a lot of you out there probably have an older computer that looks something just like this here, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, it's about darn time to start upgrading it, and well, who could blame you? But anyway, what if I told you that you could double, nay, triple your FPS without upgrading the thing? You might have to spend a couple bucks at the Home Depot, but you won't be making trips to Micro Center. So we're gonna go over pretty much every part in this old dinosaur here and turn her into a spring kitten. So without further ado, let's get to it. Step one is gonna be removing our high-powered cooler. And how do we know it's high-powered? Because it says so right there, duh. But anyway, high power means high heat, which is the exact opposite thing you want when it comes to a cooler. So we're gonna replace this one with a special surprise that you'll see later on. And now that the cooler's off, we can go ahead and clean the CPU. And to do so, we just need some above 90% isopropyl alcohol. And why above 90%? Because that's the good stuff. But just put a little bit on a Q-tip or a paper towel or something, just wipe it down, and then we'll go ahead and take it out and we'll set it aside. Now for this next part, we're gonna need a flathead screwdriver and a hammer. And basically the idea here is just to mash out or mangle down all the pins and get them out of the way like so. Now in some smaller cases like this one, it might be hard to get the screwdriver at just the right angle. So in that case, just take the edge of the flathead screwdriver and just drag it across the pins like so. But the idea here is to create more room for air to flow into the capacitors in the middle of the socket, effectively allowing us to overclock even higher. There we go, good as new. But if we want to overclock even further, then we're gonna have to help that air along even more. So grab some WD-40 and spray it right on in the socket, and once it's done bubbling, we can go ahead and put the CPU back in. And now it's time for the RAM. But uh-oh, we only got 2 slots. What are we gonna do? Well, we got this stick right here with a whole blank side on it, just asking for more memory chips to be added to it. So we'll grab another matching stick and our soldering iron and we'll get to work. Now first, of course, we're gonna run some flux across the top to help our solder flow. And the trick to this is to make sure that we solder it right in the middle of the stick so that it can still clear the slot later when we go to kick it back in. But simply start by soldering down the 2 corners to hold it in place, and then we can simply drag solder across the rest of the pins to join the 2 sticks together. And now you're probably wondering how just soldering another RAM stick on the back of another one could possibly allow data to flow through both the sticks, and well, I'll let my friend explain that one.
Life, finds a way.
And with that done, we can go ahead and put our newly upgraded memory back in the PC. And now let's move on to the storage, specifically our hard drive. And when it comes to the difference between an old disk drive like this and a new solid state drive that's nice and fast, is well, the moving parts. So all we need to do is open up our hard drive and secure down the disk and make sure it doesn't move, and then we'll have a solid state drive. I like to use Gorilla Glue for this, but any strong adhesive will do the trick. And there we go, it's not moving anymore. And now it's time for everybody's favorite part, the GPU. And before we can actually help out our GPU, we need to take care of our extra PCIe slots that we're not using. So we'll start by taking out the power cord and our GPU. Now that the GPU's out, we need to seal our other PCIe slots to make sure none of our FPSs escape through these other slots. I like to seal the bottom of the slots with some crack filler, and then over the top, just go back to the Gorilla Glue and make sure both slots are fully sealed. Look at that, nothing's getting out of those puppies. But once it's all dry, go ahead and pop your GPU back in, but don't plug the power cable in just yet. It's time to upgrade our GPU now with one of the most important things these days, which is VRAM, or in other words, video memory. Now you should be able to tell by the size of your GPU whether you need desktop memory or laptop memory. And you can see this is kind of a small GPU. So what I have here is a stick of laptop memory. And all we need to do is simply line it up with our GPU and click it on in. And to explain how this all works again,
Life, finds a way.
well done, nice and solid. And next we need to take care of our power supply. So start by unplugging the cables and pulling them into the back and then routing them back through to the front. And once that's done, go ahead and plug it back in and then squeeze it together to see how much slack we still have on the cable. What we're gonna do is cut the cables in half and then reattach them to make them shorter. And by making the cables shorter, we can make our power supply more efficient by creating shorter distances for our power to flow. If you want to get really fancy with this, you could solder them back together. Just make sure you strip the jacket a little bit or you're gonna melt it. But for short term, electrical tape works just as well. And that's what I'm gonna use today. Wow, that's a nice working job. Now we need to create some more space in the case for our stuff to breathe. So grab an ice pick and a hammer. And it's pretty much self-explanatory. Yep, that'll do. And last but not least, the cooler. And I told you I had something special and cool, so I called my good buddy Jesus, and he sent me this. And he even sent me some of the good paste, the soft stuff. You don't want the hard stuff. But with this new paste and our cooler on, we're all done. Man, that's a good looking PC. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just doing my impression of your computer now that it's gonna be wicked fast. And I'm glad we were able to save your dinosaur from becoming a fossil for at least another few years. And once again, this has been Restoring the Past with your host, Professor Shatid. And if you'll excuse me, it's time for me to do some gaming on my own new Screaming Eagle.